This podcast is part of the podcast series, Avyan in the Sacred Realm, and this is episode 7. Today we're doing a deep dive into something that, it captures everyone's imagination, time travel. But we're not just talking about the usual sci-fi machines. We want to contrast that very modern impulse with the spiritual insight of ancient Indian wisdom.
And that's really the core mission today. You have these ancient seers, people like Vasistha or Vyasa, who were described as trikādarśi.
And you can see all three tenses.
Exactly, past, present, future. Yet these very same traditions, they pretty much dismissed the idea of physically moving your body through time with some kind of device.
So that's the big question, isn't it? Why is foresight, seeing through time, seen as this ultimate spiritual achievement, while building a machine to do it is considered, misguided?
Or just impossible. Our thesis is that modern science, especially physics and neuroscience, is actually starting to prove the ancients right. The difference is all about locomotion versus perception.
Moving the body versus refining the mind.
Precisely. We're going to see that consciousness, not a metal box, is the real temporal traveler.
Okay, so let's start with that mechanical instinct. It feels natural, right? We have planes that augment flight, phones that augment our voice. It's almost like a form of divine hearing.
Right.
So the next logical step seems to be a machine that augments our movement through the temporal dimension.
It's a very compelling analogy, but it fundamentally misunderstands the ancient view on technology and consciousness. A machine grants the ability of the machine.
It doesn't grant you the inherent power.
It does not grant an inherent spiritual city. Right. The machine is just applying a law of nature that it's been built to exploit.
Yeah, so how does this map onto the concepts we've talked about before? Yantra, Tantra, and Mantra.
It's a perfect map. Mantra is the principle, the law of nature itself. Tantra is the process, the system you derive from understanding that law. And the Yantra is just the hardware. The machine. Modern science observes the mantra-like gravity and builds a yantra, a clock. The ancient path aimed to master the tantra, the knowledge itself, to gain the siddhi without needing the external hardware.
I see. But I'm sure some listeners might think, isn't a scientist's knowledge of aerodynamics a kind of tantra? What about something like ancient alchemy that used materials?
That's a fantastic point. Take the refining of mercury or parad. It was believed that if you could make it solid, it could grant abilities like flight or even visiting other planes of existence.
So that sounds a bit like hardware.
It was, but it wasn't just about mixing chemicals. The process was tied directly to the knower's disciplined knowledge of mantra, of gems, of medicine. It was a spiritual and material discipline that could take decades. It wasn't about building a prototype in a garage. The power came from the operator's refined knowledge.
Okay, so if the body is bound by physics and hardware, it seems we've hit a dead end with the mechanical approach. So does that mean the only way to travel in time is inward?
That is the pivot, exactly. For the ancient Indian traditions, time travel almost exclusively means the mind's ability to perceive across that temporal landscape. The body stays put.
And for the mind to do that, it has to be in a specific state, right?
Yes, the intellect, the buddhi, has to achieve what's called sattva guna. Think of sattva as pure clarity, stability. When the mind is still like a perfectly polished mirror, it can reflect all three tenses. It gains this panoramic awareness.
And the texts make a very clear distinction between what the mind can do and what our senses can do.
They do. The Chandogya Upanishad says the mind, manas, is the daivakat.
The divine eye.
The divine eye. But our senses, the indriyan, are stuck. They're anchored completely to the present moment. They can only see what's right in front of them right now.
That's a great way to put it. The senses are just the live camera feed.
Yeah.
But the buddhi, the intellect, that's the operating system that can scan the entire hard drive of time.
Precisely. And achieving that clarity of the buddhi is the first step for any real spiritual progress. It's a central theme, for example, in the book Avyan in the Sacred Realm, where different realms and visions are visited through Avyan's journey with the help of his guru. Avyan's whole struggle is about refining his intellect enough to hold on to those visions.
So that's the spiritual claim. Let's bring in the science. What does modern physics say? what's been proven, and what's still impossible.
Well, physics has been incredibly clear on this. What is absolutely proven is time dilation. Time is relative. It stretches and squeezes with speed and gravity.
Right, the idea that clocks tick at different rates.
It's more sensitive than you can imagine. There was a 2022 experiment at Jalanist. They showed that two atomic clocks separated vertically by just 1 millimeter age differently because of gravity.
1 millimeter.
1 millimeter. So yes, you can travel into the future fractionally faster just by climbing a staircase, but you can only move forward at different rates.
But you can't go backward.
Physical travel to the past or even the distant future is considered impossible. Sure, you have mathematical solutions on paper wormholes, warp drives from people like Maldacena or Bronikov, but they all come with a huge catch.
And what's the catch?
They all require exotic matter, things with negative mass or negative energy density to keep the wormhole from collapsing. This isn't just something we haven't found yet. It seems to violate the fundamental laws of physics as we know them. The body is stuck here.
Okay, so the body is stuck. But this is where it gets really interesting, because the universe itself doesn't seem to play by our linear rules.
Yep.
We have Einstein's general relativity, which points to the block universe.
The block universe model is probably the biggest scientific validation of the ancient view. It suggests that the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. They're just fixed coordinates in space-time, like locations on a map.
So when Einstein said the passage of time is a stubbornly persistent illusion,
he was perfectly describing the Hindu concept of Kala Brahma, the idea that it's our perception that moves across a fixed field of time. Time itself doesn't flow.
It's like a movie reel. The whole story is already there on the film, and our consciousness is just the projector light moving from one frame to the next.
That's a perfect analogy, and quantum mechanics takes this even further. It just demolishes our linear intuition. You have concepts like retrocausality,
where the future can affect the past.
In a sense, yes. Time-symmetric interpretations suggest that future conditions can reach back and influence present outcomes. The basic equations of physics don't really care which way time is going. It's our brains that insist on a straight line.
Which brings us to the bridge between all of this. If the universe is structured this way, how does the mind tap into it? This is where neuroscience comes in, right? Shows the brain is already a kind of time traveler.
It absolutely is. The neural systems we use to remember the past and simulate the future are almost identical. They use the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex, and something called the default mode network, or DMN.
And what's the DMN's job in all this?
The DMN is basically your brain's storyteller, its internal narrator. It's what you use to think about yourself, about others, and to build your personal timeline. When you remember something or you imagine the future, your DMN lights up.
So remembering is like rebuilding the past, and imagining is simulating the future.
Exactly. They are both active, creative processes. And what's really amazing is how this lines up with the ancient Indian model of the mind.
You mean the sensory mind, manas, versus the intellect, buddhi?
Yes. Recent neuroscience, even from this year, 2024, shows the hippocampus has different jobs. The back part deals with immediate sensory details, the manas, but the front part handles the simulation, blending memories to create possible futures, the buddhi.
And we know this ability to think about the future is located in a very specific spot.
We do. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the VMPFC. A 2021 study on patients with damage there was incredible. They could remember their past perfectly, but they had completely lost the ability to imagine or plan for the future.
So it's a dedicated function.
It's a dedicated neural function. We already have the machinery for mental time travel built right in.
Which brings us to mastery. If we all have this gear in our heads, how does something like meditation refine it and push it towards that yogic level of foresight?
Meditation is the purification process. The baseline state for most of us is a noisy mind. The DMN, that storyteller, is just running wild. Deep meditation consistently quiets the DMN.
And when the storyteller stops constantly building that timeline,
the experience of linear time starts to dissolve. That's why you hear practitioners talk about time slowing down or feeling like they're outside of time.
And you can see this with brain scans.
Oh, yes. EEG data shows meditators shift into alpha and theta brainwave patterns. Theta, in particular, is linked to insight and a state where the brain relaxes its strict chronological ordering of events.
So it's not just about relaxing, it's a different way of processing reality.
It's a fundamental shift. Research also shows meditation widens the temporal integration window. Normally, your brain stitches moments together very quickly to create a smooth flow. Meditation lets your awareness cover a much wider span at once. You see the whole pattern, not just the next step.
Panoramic view.
A panoramic view. That's the scientific basis for trikādarśi. And this kind of rigorous practice is absolutely essential. It's a point made so clearly in the book, Avyan and the Sacred Realm, where different realms and visions are visited through Avyan's journey with the help of his guru. The guru always insists on that stable internal focus before any true vision can happen.
So to synthesize all this, spiritual vision isn't magic. It's just the highest possible optimization of our natural cognitive hardware.
That's the core of it. I love your analogy of a still lake. A turbulent lake only gives you broken reflections.
Right.
A chaotic mind gives you blurry memories and vague anxieties about the future. But a still, trained mind, it reflects the deeper structural reality of time with precision and clarity. Physics shows time is a structure. Neuroscience shows our brain can navigate it. Meditation is the method. And Indian philosophy gave us the map.
This brings us to the final and maybe most mind-bending layer, the perception of other realms. If time is a fixed structure, then reality itself might be multi-layered.
It is. The ancient idea of a loka isn't a different planet you fly to. A loka is a coexisting mode of existence, a different frequency band, you could say.
Like different radio stations sharing the same airwaves.
An excellent analogy. And consciousness is the tuner, not a traveler. A yogi doesn't go to the ancestral realm, the pit loka. Their consciousness tunes into it by silencing the noisy static of the physical senses.
So the highest form of perception is seeing how those subtle layers are affecting what's happening right here, right now.
Yes, that's integrated vision. It's seeing causality not just across time, but across these layers of reality. Seeing how ancestral patterns or karmic patterns are shaping the event that's unfolding in front of you. It's a profound concept, and it really drives the story in the book Avyan and the Sacred Realm, where different realms and visions are visited through Avyan's journey with the help of his guru, showing how these layers are all interconnected.
So bringing it all home, the idea that Hindu philosophy was right all along really hinges on this one distinction. Mechanical movement fails, but perceptual refinement works. Time travel isn't about building a better machine. It's about inner expansion. Spiritual vision is just high-resolution cognition.
And that really leaves you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. If science now confirms that your brain is already built to move beyond the present moment, and the ancient wisdom gives us the method to refine that ability, what hidden capacities in your own consciousness are just waiting for a moment of stillness to be revealed? The universe is not one-layered, and the mind is not one-limited.
This was episode 7. Thank you for listening. If this resonated, explore Avyan in the Sacred Realm. The journey continues,